Humanity had spent 100 years reaching for the stars, and the stars had welcomed them with open arms. Or so it seemed. Across the spiral arms of the galaxy, humans were known as the Solarians, the peacekeepers, the helpers. Every world that had once suffered war, famine, or disease remembered the hand of Earth reaching out. Their fleets carried supplies, their scientists shared cures, and their diplomats spoke with patience that seemed endless. On the surface of Luna, under the domed cities of the moon, a young officer named Lieutenant Mara Voss walked through the halls of the Terran Strategic Command. She had grown up hearing stories of human kindness, how humans had rebuilt planets that were scarred by centuries of war. And yet she felt an unease that even the oldest generals could not dismiss. "The galaxy doesn't respect us the way they should," Mara said to her friend, Ensign Kellen Rios, as they watched traffic move in the orbital docking bays. "We give them everything and they just take it. They think we are weak." Kellen shrugged. "Maybe we are just polite," he said. "Politeness is not weakness. It is who we are," Mara frowned. "Politeness is what made them think they could get away with it." Outside, the stars shone like diamonds scattered across black velvet. From space, the human colonies looked peaceful. Thriving cities, green fields under protective domes, oceans carefully preserved or recreated. But Mara knew that beyond the beauty, danger was always waiting. Across the galaxy, whispers traveled faster than light. "The humans are kind. They will not fight." The Zalrune Confederacy was the first to test that theory. A species with scales like bronze and voices like grinding metal, they were proud, aggressive, and ambitious. They demanded that several outer colonies, including the rich agricultural world of New Carthage, surrender to their rule. The Terran Council, in its usual way, tried diplomacy first. Ambassador Rena Soto flew to the Zalrune capital, speaking with measured calm, offering treaties, sharing maps of trade routes, and even promising joint exploration missions. The Zalrune laughed. Not a polite laugh, but a deep, resonant sound that shook the council chambers. "You give and we take. That is your way. But your colonies are ours. You have nothing to offer but words, human." Rena's hands tightened on the table. "Words can solve conflicts where weapons fail. We do not believe in conquest. We do not wish to fight. We shall see if you feel the same way when we take what is ours," the Zalrune commander replied, his voice like iron scraping over stone. Back on Luna, the mood in the Terran Strategic Command shifted from calm patience to quiet concern. Admiral Helena Cross, the head of the Terran fleet, gathered her officers. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with intensity. "History has shown us that humanity is not weak, but it has also shown us that patience has limits," she said. Her voice echoed across the command chamber. "The Zalrune do not understand us. They believe our kindness is surrender. That ends now. We prepare for every possibility, but we do not strike first, we wait. And we watch." Mara listened carefully, absorbing every word. She had trained for years to protect humanity. But the idea of turning from kindness to force was almost unthinkable, and yet the feeling in her chest told her that the Zalrune were not the last test humanity would face. Months passed, and tensions grew. The Zalrune fleets moved closer to the human colonies, surveying, probing, testing defenses. Humans continued their trade missions, their medical aid, their peaceful talks. The galaxy outside Luna's protective dome seemed to flow like a river of stars, calm on the surface but with dangerous currents beneath. On New Carthage, life went on as usual. Farmers harvested artificial crops in their domed fields, children played in parks under the soft glow of engineered suns, and scientists developed clean energy systems that could power entire cities. Nobody could imagine that beyond the orbiting clouds, fleets of Zalrune warships waited silently, like predators circling prey. In the communications room of the New Carthage colony, Communications Officer Tarek Juan tapped nervously at his console. Reports came in of alien ships scanning the planet. "Sir," he said to his commander, "the Zalrune are preparing. Their weapons are active. I don't think they believe we will resist." Commander Amina Voss, Mara's cousin and a veteran of many off-world missions, nodded. "Then it's time they learn who we really are. Not through anger, not through hate, but through strength they cannot ignore." And then it happened. The first strike came without warning. Not in anger, not as part of a larger battle, but as a test. New Carthage's orbital defenses detected energy pulses approaching from multiple directions. The colony's shield generators flared to life. and the people watched in horror as entire sectors of their orbital space were destroyed. Buildings vaporized, fleets disabled, communication satellites shattered. The Zal rune had claimed millions of lives in an instant. The colony's surface was a mix of panic and devastation. Rescue drones moved quickly, but even they could not reach everyone. Survivors gathered in emergency domes, huddling together as they tried to understand what had just happened. Back on Luna, Admiral Cross received the news in silence. The room was quiet except for the hum of consoles and the soft beep of incoming messages. She closed her eyes for a moment, then spoke with calm authority. Humanity has been patient. Humanity has been kind. Humanity has given its hand in friendship. And humanity has been ignored. This ends now. Lieutenant Mara Voss felt a shiver run down her spine. She had always believed in the human way, the way of helping, of giving, of negotiating. And now she realized that patience could be mistaken for weakness. The galaxy was learning a dangerous lesson. Every broadcast channel, every trade frequency, every diplomatic channel went silent for weeks. Humanity disappeared. Ships stopped moving along old trade routes. Colonies ceased sending routine updates, and the galaxy began to wonder if the humans had vanished. Panic spread quietly, not from violence but from absence. Kellen Rios, now stationed at Luna's defense station, watched alien traders scramble to reroute shipments. "They are realizing something," he whispered. "Something they ignored for 100 years. Mara nodded, staring at the holographic map of the galaxy. "Yes, we are not weak, and we will remind them of that. But not through war, not yet. We have something stronger: control, patience, and the ability to act when the time is right." Even the Zal rune felt the first ripple of fear. They had underestimated humans for too long. Every species that had laughed at Earth's diplomats, every fleet that had ignored Earth's warnings would soon understand that kindness was not weakness. It was a choice, a human choice, and when humans chose, the galaxy would see the result. The quiet years of humanity's kindness were over. In the shadows of the lunar domes, in the corridors of the Terran Strategic Command, humanity waited, silent, patient, and unyielding. The stars had seen human generosity, but they had never seen human resolve. And when that resolve would finally be revealed, no empire, no fleet, no species would mistake Earth's smile for surrender ever again. For weeks, the galaxy waited in confusion. Humanity's sudden silence was a mystery no species had faced before. Trade routes were blocked, communication channels empty, and every system that once relied on Earth's fleets and supply lines found itself struggling. The humans had vanished from view, but the absence was louder than any message. On Luna, in the deep control rooms of the Terran Strategic Command, Admiral Helena Cross watched the stars with careful attention. Her eyes scanned every reading, every orbit, every incoming transmission. Around her, officers moved quietly, all trained to act only when ordered. Humanity's strategy was precise. No rash moves, no unnecessary displays. Lieutenant Mara Voss stood beside Admiral Cross, feeling a mixture of fear and anticipation. "Admiral," she said, "the Zalrune are asking the Council why we are silent. They do not understand. They are worried, but they think it is weakness." Cross turned to her, her face calm but unyielding. "They will learn soon enough, Lieutenant. Silence is a language the galaxy has not understood until now. Every empire, every fleet, every trader will hear the message, but not until it is ready to be heard." In the outer systems, confusion spread like wildfire. Alien merchants scrambled, attempting to reroute shipments. Supply lines were delayed or cut entirely. Worlds that had depended on human trade found themselves isolated, their economies faltering. News channels that once carried updates from human diplomats now showed empty feeds. Panic quietly began to ripple across the galaxy. Meanwhile, the Zalrune Confederacy grew restless. Their fleets had expected a fight, an immediate show of force from Earth's colonies. Instead, they found silence. Their scouts could see thriving planets, bustling cities, but no communications, no military movements. Even the orbital weapon systems of New Carthage, though partially restored, were quiet. Admiral Cross had waited for this moment. It was the perfect time to send humanity's first formal warning, a signal that would reach every major species, every council chamber, and every fleet. But it would not be a threat in the usual sense. Humans did not strike from anger. They struck from principle. The message was prepared. Every word had been carefully chosen. Every visual, every symbol, every tone of the broadcast designed to convey clarity, authority, and inevitability. The Terran Strategic Command assembled a team of linguists, engineers, and diplomats to ensure it would be understood by all species. At precisely 0600 Terran Standard Time, the transmission began. Across thousands of star systems, across billions of miles of vacuum, the same message appeared simultaneously. We tried kindness. We offered friendship. We gave aid and guidance. We assumed trust would be mutual. You have ignored us. You have taken what we offered for granted. This is our final warning. Humanity's politeness has ended. The effect was immediate. Every species received the broadcast, and every species paused to react. The message was not threatening in the usual sense. No weapons, no demands. Yet the clarity of purpose behind it sent shivers through diplomats, traders, and military leaders alike. In the Zalrune capital, Councillor Therax slammed his clawed hand against the council table. How can silence and words have such power? They do not even fire a shot, yet every fleet trembles. The Terran message echoed in every major council chamber across the galaxy. Some species laughed nervously, unsure whether it was a bluff. Others, more cautious, immediately ordered preparations. Even the most aggressive warlords paused to consider their next move. Humanity's reputation for patience, intelligence, and fairness now carried the weight of undeniable authority. Back on Luna, Admiral Cross watched the galaxy's reaction unfold in real time. Holographic screens displayed fleets redirecting, markets halting, and council chambers erupting into debate. She allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had not attacked, but it had reminded the galaxy that it was not to be underestimated. Lieutenant Mara Voss turned to her. "Admiral, it's working." "They are listening." "They are scared," Cross nodded. "Good, they must understand. Politeness is not weakness. It is our choice. And when we act, the galaxy will see our resolve. But this is only the beginning, Mara. Only the beginning." While the galaxy reeled from the broadcast, secret human teams moved quietly to secure key positions, not with weapons of war, but with control over systems critical to logistics. Communication satellites, spaceports, and energy grids were brought under human oversight, not to harm, but to ensure that no species could undermine stability. It was a silent, invisible influence, impossible to counter without confrontation. The first ripple of panic spread through alien trade networks. Merchants who relied on human ships found themselves stranded in deep space. Fleets that had laughed at Earth's helpful fleets were now stranded without fuel, guidance, or support. Every sector began to feel the subtle but undeniable hand of Terran order. On New Carthage, the surviving population slowly began to recover, aided by automated drones and support systems remotely controlled from Luna. No human ships fired a single shot, yet the planet was stabilized more efficiently than ever before. Humanity had learned a lesson over centuries, that true strength did not require violence. Only preparation, intelligence, and patience. The Zalrune, realizing their initial attack had only provoked something they could not measure, grew cautious. Their fleets hesitated to engage. Their diplomats, for the first time, reconsidered the way they had treated humans. Across the galaxy, other species began sending tentative messages of negotiation. Even those who had previously laughed at Earth's patience now approached with caution. In the quiet halls of Terran Strategic Command, Admiral Cross spoke to her officers. "Do you see, Lieutenant Mara? Humanity has not struck. Humanity has not conquered, yet every species knows the cost of ignoring our word. That is power. That is authority. That is what comes from knowing who you are and refusing to be mistaken for something less." Mara nodded, understanding the lesson fully. Humanity had given the galaxy every chance: aid, friendship, trade, diplomacy. Every opportunity had been met with greed, arrogance, or disregard. Now, for the first time, the galaxy faced the human response, a calm, intelligent, and unyielding reminder that patience had limits. For weeks, the Terran broadcast repeated, reaching systems far beyond the Sol sector. And in every council chamber, every fleet command, and every marketplace, the message was clear. Humans were no longer silent by chance. They were silent by design, and their silence carried weight heavier than any weapon. Even the most aggressive species began to reconsider their strategies. They had assumed humans would continue to give, continue to forgive, continue to smile while their colonies were threatened. They had been wrong. Humanity had waited, observed, and prepared. And now the first spark of warning had broken across the galaxy like a silent storm. On Luna, Admiral Cross looked out at the stars, her reflection visible in the glass of the observation deck. "This is only the spark," she said softly. "The galaxy will remember it. They will know what happens when humanity stops being polite, and when the time comes they will understand why." Lieutenant Mara Voss, standing beside her, felt the weight of history pressing on her shoulders. Humanity had made a choice, and the galaxy would never be the same. The quiet years, the decades of generosity and kindness had ended. A new chapter had begun, one where patience and intelligence, not force alone, would command respect. Somewhere in the deep reaches of space, alien fleets waited nervously, unsure of the next move. Humanity's silence, now broken by a single clear warning, had done more than any fleet or weapon could have done. The galaxy knew. The humans were watching and they were ready. And for the first time, every species understood that humanity's kindness had been real, but its patience had a limit. And that limit had been reached. The galaxy had heard humanity's warning. Every species knew that the humans had stopped being polite, but no one truly understood what that meant. Was it a threat, a bluff, or the beginning of something far greater? From Luna, Admiral Helena Cross watched the movements of fleets across multiple sectors. She did not issue orders to attack. She did not raise weapons. Humanity's power, she knew, was not in weapons alone. It was in control, in foresight, and in the ability to act where others could not. Lieutenant Mara Voss stood at her side, eyes fixed on the holographic maps showing hundreds of systems. "Admiral, the Zalrun are trying to reorganize their fleets," she said. "They're unsure whether to attack or retreat." "And other species? They are hesitating too," Cross nodded. "Exactly. Hesitation is power. And now, we will show them what it truly means when humanity acts, not from anger but from principle." Across the galaxy, human engineers had prepared quietly for months. Artificial intelligences controlled massive fleets, automated repair drones, and remote energy grids. Communication networks were subtly reprogrammed to allow humans to guide, monitor, and, when necessary, disable other systems, all without a single shot being fired. The first demonstration of this silent authority came in the Lyrian trade cluster. Hundreds of alien cargo ships were traveling together when suddenly, their engines refused to start. Navigation systems flickered. Their fleets could not move, their signals could not reach each other. Panic spread instantly among captains who had relied on their speed and coordination. From Luna, humans observed. They did not attack. They simply corrected the situation. Within hours, the cargo ships were rerouted safely to nearby stations, controlled entirely by Terran systems. The crews, bewildered and shaken, were unharmed. Yet the lesson was clear. Humans had power not through destruction but through intelligence, preparation, and control. Meanwhile, on New Carthage, recovery continued. Automated drones repaired infrastructure, restored energy grids, and stabilized the population. Food, water, and medical supplies arrived efficiently. Humans had learned to act decisively, without wasting time or resources, ensuring that no life was unnecessarily lost. The Zalrun fleets, still floating outside the system, struggled to understand what was happening. Their warships, once feared across dozens of systems, were now vulnerable, not to weapons but to logistics, communication, and human oversight. They attempted to fire their engines, but nothing responded. Attempts to override the systems failed. It was as if the very galaxy had shifted against them. Counselor Therax of the Zalrun panicked. "How can they control so much without attacking?" he demanded. "They are not firing a single weapon, yet we are trapped. Our fleets, our stations, everything is in their hands." In the Terran Strategic Command, Admiral Cross smiled faintly. "That is the point, Mara. Strength is not always loud. Sometimes it is quiet, invisible, and inevitable. Humanity's politeness has ended. And now the galaxy sees that our patience was never weakness." Lieutenant Mara Voss thought about all the stories she had heard of human explorers, diplomats, and soldiers. They had always been known for kindness, for patience, for generosity. And yet here they were, calm, controlled, and unyielding. It was the same humanity she had always admired, only sharpened into a force the galaxy could not ignore. Meanwhile, the ripple effects continued. Alien trade networks faltered as supply routes were quietly redirected by human-controlled systems. Fleets attempting to blockade human colonies suddenly found themselves stranded, powerless. Governments that had once relied on intimidation now scrambled to negotiate. And everywhere, one message became clear. Humanity could act decisively when ignored, and it would do so without unnecessary violence. Admiral Cross convened a council with senior officers. "The galaxy will test us," she said. "They will try to push back to challenge us, and we will respond, but with precision, intelligence, and patience. Every move we make is calculated. We do not strike out of anger. We act to correct, to restore order, and to make the consequences of ignoring humanity clear." Mara listened carefully. "But Admiral, some species may not understand that. They might still attack us." Cross's gaze was steady. "Then they will learn, Mara. They will learn that human resolve is unlike anything they have ever faced. We do not seek war. We do not seek conquest, but we will not allow injustice or disregard to go unchallenged." In the Orion Arm, a fleet of traders from multiple species tried to escape human oversight. They assumed they could outrun the Terran influence, that they could find loopholes in the networks. Within hours, they discovered that humans had anticipated every route, every contingency. Ships were rerouted safely to neutral stations, their engines controlled remotely to avoid accidents. The crews were unharmed, but the humiliation was profound. Across the galaxy, stories spread quickly. The humans do not fire, yet they are unstoppable. Even the Zalrun began to reconsider their strategy. Counselor Therax, humiliated by the silent control humanity exerted over the galaxy, called for a retreat. "We cannot fight them. They are everywhere, yet nowhere. They control our systems without firing a single weapon. We have underestimated them." The galaxy, for the first time in centuries, saw humanity not as a polite ally, not as a peaceful helper, but as a force of order and intelligence. Their silence, once thought to be absence or weakness, was now understood as preparation. Their patience, once thought endless, had limits, and those limits had been reached. Admiral Cross allowed herself a moment of reflection. "We have shown the galaxy what we can do," she said softly. "But this is only the beginning. Politeness has ended. Control has begun. And when the time comes, every species will understand what it means to ignore humanity's warning." Lieutenant Mara Voss looked out at the stars from the command deck. She could see the distant lights of other colonies, other fleets, all responding to humanity's influence. The galaxy was changing, not through violence, but through intelligence, precision, and careful strategy. Humanity had always been clever, resourceful, and patient. Now they were unstoppable. Across the Sol system, communication signals went out to every major species. Every council chamber, every fleet command, every trading post received the same message, repeated continuously. "We do not conquer. We do not destroy. But we act to correct. Humanity's politeness has ended. Respect and cooperation are no longer optional. Choose wisely." The effect was immediate. Alien fleets paused, empires reconsidered, and even pirates avoided human space. The galaxy learned quickly that humans were not to be tested. In the quiet of Luna's command center, Admiral Cross turned to Mara. "Do you see why we act this way?" she asked. "Yes, Admiral," Mara replied. "Kindness has limits. Patience has limits. And now the galaxy knows that humanity will not be ignored." Cross nodded. "Exactly. We are still the humans we have always been. Patient, intelligent, kind. But when necessary, we are also decisive, precise, and unstoppable. That is what the galaxy must understand." And so, humanity's iron response spread silently across the stars. They controlled, they guided, they corrected, all without firing a shot. And in every corner of the galaxy, every species realized the same truth. Human patience was powerful, but human action was absolute. The quiet storm of Terran influence had begun, and the galaxy would never see humanity in the same way again. From the smallest trade station to the largest military fleet, everyone understood the first rule of human authority: do not mistake kindness for weakness. And in the depths of space, under the watchful eyes of Admiral Cross and her officers, humanity waited. Silent, patient, intelligent, and ready for the next step. The stars themselves seemed to shimmer with anticipation, as if they knew humanity's final warning had already changed the course of the galaxy. The galaxy had begun to change. Systems that had once ignored humanity's warnings now felt their influence everywhere. Trade networks, communication lines, and fleet movements were all subtly guided by Terran control. Not through violence, but through intelligence and careful planning. Humanity had not fired a shot, yet the galaxy understood that ignoring them carried consequences. On New Carthage, the survivors of the first attack were rebuilding under the watchful guidance of automated human drones. Energy grids hummed back to life. Medical supplies arrived on schedule and infrastructure repairs were coordinated with precision. Commander Amina Voss observed the restoration with a mixture of pride and relief. "We can rebuild faster than they can destroy," she said to her team. "That is the strength of humanity." Far across the Orion Arm, the Zalrune Confederacy felt the pressure of human influence in ways they could not control. Their fleets were grounded, supply lines redirected, and internal communications monitored by Terran systems. Every attempt to move or retaliate failed, as if the galaxy itself were turning against them. Councillor Therax could no longer rely on brute force. His arrogance had brought the Confederacy to its knees. Meanwhile, other species began to take notice. Civilizations that had once mocked Earth's patience sent cautious messages of negotiation. Some attempted to bypass human oversight, only to find themselves rerouted, stranded, or guided gently but firmly back to cooperation. The lesson was clear. The humans were not conquerors, but they were in control. Their influence was subtle, precise, and unavoidable. On Luna, Admiral Helena Cross monitored every movement with her officers. Lieutenant Mara Voss stood beside her, studying the holographic maps of the galaxy. "Admiral," Mara said, pointing at several systems, "they are all responding. Even the most aggressive empires are sending requests to talk. They are scared but respectful. They finally understand that we are serious." Cross nodded slowly. "Yes, Mara. Humanity's politeness ended long ago. Now they see that patience is not weakness, and ignoring our warnings carries consequences. But we are not here to punish unnecessarily. We are here to correct, to guide, and to restore order." The first formal diplomatic meetings began with representatives from multiple species arriving at neutral stations under human oversight. For the first time, alien diplomats were forced to follow strict protocols and schedules. Every word, every action, every request was observed and guided by Terran systems. It was not harsh, but it was firm. Civilization after civilization realized that cooperation with humanity was no longer optional. It was necessary for survival and stability. In the Zalrune capital, Councillor Therax called an emergency session. "We underestimated them," he said, his voice heavy with frustration. "We thought their kindness was weakness. We assumed they would never act decisively, and now we are at their mercy without a single Terran ship firing a shot." Another council member hissed in agreement. "They are everywhere, yet nowhere. Their fleets, their engineers, their systems, and all silent, all controlled. How can we fight them?" Therax's claws drummed nervously on the table. "We cannot fight them. We must surrender, or at least ask for guidance. They have shown us a power we cannot resist, and we have no choice but to comply." The surrender was not violent. It was formal, measured, and precise. The Zalrune fleets withdrew from contested systems, and their territories were slowly restored to stability under human oversight. They learned the difference between conquest and correction. Humanity did not seek revenge, but it did ensure that arrogance and aggression would not go unchallenged. In the wider galaxy, news of the Zalrune retreat spread rapidly. Other species who had been skeptical, aggressive, or dismissive began to send delegations requesting help, guidance, and cooperation. For the first time, humans were not merely allies or helpers. They were teachers, administrators, and stabilizers. Their influence shaped trade, governance, and diplomacy across the stars. Back on Luna, Admiral Cross addressed her officers. "Do you see the effect, Lieutenant Mara? We did not destroy. We did not conquer. We acted decisively, intelligently, and with patience. And yet every species in the galaxy has learned a lesson. Humanity will not be ignored. Humanity will not be taken for granted." Mara nodded, her eyes scanning the holographic display of galactic systems. "It's incredible, Admiral. We have restored order without firing a single shot, and yet the galaxy respects us more than ever." Cross allowed herself a small smile. "That is the power of intelligence, strategy, and patience. That is the power of humanity. Our kindness is genuine, but our patience has limits, and now every civilization knows where those limits lie." Meanwhile, in the newly stabilized systems, humans began teaching alien species the methods that had allowed them to rebuild so efficiently. Engineers trained technicians from other worlds, administrators shared governance strategies, and scientists introduced systems that made energy, food, and resources more reliable and sustainable. Humanity's influence was not forced, it was offered, and willingly accepted. Even former aggressors like the Zalrun now sent students to human colonies, eager to learn the principles that had allowed a single species to rise through intelligence, cooperation, and patience. They were humbled but grateful. They had witnessed the consequences of arrogance and learned that humanity's power was unlike anything they had imagined. On New Carthage, Commander Amina Voss observed the transformation of her homeworld. "Look at them, Lieutenant Mara," she said. "They are learning from us. They are becoming better civilizations because we showed them the right path. Not through fear, not through violence, but through intelligence and guidance." Mara nodded. "It's true, Commander. Humanity's final warning was not to destroy them. It was to teach them. And now, they are listening." In the deep space between the stars, fleets moved quietly under human oversight, correcting inefficiencies, guiding trade, and ensuring stability. Every system touched by humanity became safer, more organized, and more cooperative. Civilization spread not through conquest, but through respect, intelligence, and patient guidance. Back on Luna, Admiral Cross watched the stars in quiet satisfaction. "The galaxy will remember this time, Mara. They will remember when humanity stopped being polite and began guiding the stars, and they will never mistake our kindness for weakness again." Mara gazed at the distant lights, reflecting on everything they had accomplished. The quiet years of patience had ended. The spark of warning had become a wave of correction, and the galaxy, once arrogant and careless, was now listening. Humanity had not fired a single weapon, yet it had reshaped entire sectors. It had corrected injustice, guided civilization, and taught the galaxy a lesson that would not be forgotten. The final warning had been delivered, and now the stars themselves seemed to shine differently, acknowledging the new order. Even the smallest trading post, far beyond the Sol system, now respected the reach and authority of humans. Every civilization that had doubted them now sought guidance and cooperation. The galaxy had learned that human patience was not infinite, and human intelligence could achieve what brute force could not. Admiral Cross turned to Mara. "Do you understand what we have done?" she asked. Mara nodded. "Yes, Admiral. We have taught the galaxy a lesson in patience, in intelligence, and in respect. Humanity's politeness may be over, but our guidance has just begun." Cross smiled. "Exactly. And as long as we remain vigilant, the galaxy will thrive under cooperation and fairness. This is the true power of humanity. We do not conquer to rule. We guide to restore. We do not fight to destroy. We act to correct. That is what makes us strong. That is what makes us respected." Mara felt a surge of pride. Humanity had shown the galaxy its true strength, not through violence or fear, but through intelligence, patience, and decisive action. The lesson was clear. The era of testing human patience was over. Humanity had acted, and the galaxy had learned its place. As the stars twinkled outside the observation deck, Mara knew that the quiet storm of humanity's influence would continue. The galaxy would remember the fall of the arrogant. They would remember that patience is a gift, but when crossed, it becomes a force no one can ignore. Humanity had given the galaxy a chance. The galaxy had ignored it. And now, under careful guidance and firm oversight, the galaxy was finally learning to respect the species that had once been underestimated. The galaxy had changed. Systems that once ignored human warnings now followed carefully considered Terran guidance. Trade routes were organized efficiently, fleets coordinated, and conflicts that might have escalated into wars were quietly resolved by human oversight. Humanity's influence spread not through conquest or fear, but through intelligence, patience, and decisive action. On Luna, Admiral Helena Cross walked along the observation deck, looking at the stars. She felt a quiet satisfaction. The humans had shown the galaxy that kindness was not weakness, that patience could be mistaken for weakness, but that human resolve, when finally displayed, was absolute. Lieutenant Mara Voss followed, her eyes scanning the screens that displayed the movements of fleets, the status of colonies, and the restoration of systems that had once teetered on the edge of chaos. "Admiral," she said softly, "we've done more than just warn them. We've rebuilt their trust and stability. They respect us. Maybe even admire us." Cross nodded. "Yes, Mara, respect is earned. And admiration follows when you combine patience, intelligence, and decisive action. Humanity has given the galaxy a choice: cooperate or face disorder. And they have chosen wisely." Across multiple sectors, human teams worked alongside alien engineers and administrators. On newly stabilized worlds, human methods of governance were taught. Energy systems were made more reliable. Food distribution was optimized. Fleet coordination was streamlined. The galaxy learned to function not through conflict, but through intelligence and collaboration. Even former aggressors like the Zalrune Confederacy were transformed. Counselor Therax now oversaw education programs designed to teach younger generations about cooperation and respect. "We once thought the humans were weak," he admitted privately to his aides. "Now we understand that strength comes from intelligence, planning, and patience. We are lucky to have learned before it was too late." In smaller trading systems, alien merchants spoke quietly among themselves. "The humans, they do not destroy, yet they guide us with a power we cannot resist. We must cooperate. There is no other way." The galaxy had learned an important lesson. The humans were not conquerors. They did not seek vengeance. They sought fairness, order, and cooperation. And where their patience was tested, they responded decisively without violence, but with a force that could not be ignored. On Earth, celebrations were quiet but meaningful. Humanity had not fought a war. No one had fired a single shot. Yet the galaxy now looked to humans as leaders, guides, and stabilizers. Families watched the stars from their homes, proud of the species that had once only dreamed of reaching the stars and had now shaped entire civilizations with intelligence, patience, and integrity. In the Sol system, fleets moved efficiently between worlds, coordinating trade, resources, and exploration missions. Systems that had once been chaotic or competitive now functioned with the elegance of human design. Even pirates and smugglers found themselves unable to exploit weaknesses, as humanity's influence reached everywhere it was needed. Admiral Cross addressed a meeting of senior officers and diplomats. "We have achieved something remarkable," she said. "We have restored stability, taught cooperation, and ensured that no civilization mistakes our kindness for weakness. We are respected, not feared, admired, not hated, and this is the true power of humanity." Lieutenant Maravos smiled, thinking of all the lives saved, all the colonies rebuilt, all the fleets coordinated without a single conflict. "Admiral, I never imagined it could be done without violence. Yet we've reshaped the galaxy entirely." Cross turned to her. "That is what makes humans unique, Mara. We combine patience, intelligence, and principle. We do not conquer to dominate. We guide to restore, and when necessary, we act decisively, but always with purpose. That is why the galaxy now respects us." In distant star systems, alien governments began creating councils to coordinate with humanity. They sent students, engineers, and diplomats to Terran colonies to learn methods of governance, trade, and cooperation. Systems that had once been corrupt or chaotic now adopted principles modeled after human intelligence and patience. Even planets that had been isolated or struggling to survive began thriving. Humanity's influence created a ripple effect of knowledge, cooperation, and prosperity. It was not imposed by force. It was offered, taught, and adopted willingly. On New Carthage, Commander Amina Voss oversaw one of the first fully restructured colonies. Automated systems worked seamlessly alongside human and alien administrators. Children attended schools teaching both Terran and local knowledge. Farmers used methods optimized for yield and sustainability. Engineers repaired infrastructure with precision and care. It was a world transformed, a model for what collaboration between humans and aliens could achieve. Mara watched the progress and realized something profound. Humanity's warning had not been about punishment. It had been about teaching, about showing the galaxy that patience, intelligence, and courage combined could create stability and respect. The galaxy had learned that lesson, and the results were far greater than any fleet could achieve. In the Terran Strategic Command, Admiral Cross recorded a message to all the species of the galaxy. Her voice was calm, firm, and filled with authority. "We are human. We have been patient and we have been kind. But when our patience was tested, we acted decisively, not to harm but to restore. Let this be remembered. We are kind by choice, not by weakness. Cooperation is rewarded. Disregard carries consequences. The galaxy now has a chance to thrive together, and we will guide that chance with fairness, intelligence, and purpose. Humanity's politeness has ended. Humanity's guidance has begun. Across the galaxy, the message was received with respect and relief. The systems once threatened or ignored now embraced cooperation, learning from human guidance. Trade flourished, diplomacy succeeded, and conflicts that might have erupted were prevented through careful oversight. In her private quarters, Admiral Cross looked at the stars and reflected. Humanity had reached for the stars as explorers, as helpers, and as friends. And now humanity had become something greater, a force of stability, intelligence, and guidance. The galaxy would remember the era when human patience ended and human influence began. Lieutenant Mara Voss joined her. "Do you think they will ever forget us, Admiral?" she asked. Cross smiled softly. "No, Mara. The galaxy will remember this moment for centuries. They will remember that kindness is not weakness, that patience has limits, and that intelligence combined with resolve can shape entire civilizations. Humanity has left its mark, not with war, but with wisdom. That is the true meaning of strength." Even the smallest colonies felt the effect. Children learned about the humans who had rebuilt the galaxy without destruction. Scientists studied Terran methods of cooperation and logistics. Leaders modeled their governance after human principles. Respect for Earth and its people had become universal, not through fear, but through understanding and admiration. In the observation deck of Luna's command center, Mara and Cross stood together, watching distant stars twinkle. Humanity's journey to the stars had begun with exploration, patience, and kindness. It had ended, for now, with guidance, respect, and influence that no species could ignore. The galaxy had changed. The arrogant had learned humility. The careless had learned responsibility. The kind, intelligent humans of Earth had shown that power does not need to be violent to be absolute. Admiral Cross turned to Mara one final time. "We have done something remarkable, Mara. Humanity's final warning has been delivered. And now the galaxy will thrive because of what we have done. We acted not for revenge, not for conquest, but for guidance. That is the strength of our species." Mara nodded, her heart filled with pride and hope. "We did it, Admiral. Humanity has truly changed the galaxy." And in the quiet of space, under the watchful eyes of humans, the stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. Human patience is a gift, but human resolve is unstoppable. Humanity had given the galaxy one last warning, and the galaxy had listened.